The easily walked 23-kilometre long path has been brought up to date following the route of the original royal roadway that used to link Lecatio and Mendexa with Durango and then continued on to La Rioja and Castile. The roadway is also called GR38, or the Wine and Fish Trade Route. This was the crossroads of the roads laid down in history, the Way of St. James, or Camino, running east to west as a Christian highway for pilgrims from the late Middle Ages, and the road running south to north from Castile to the Cantabria Sea, that was the trade route responsible for the evolution that was first noted in the early Middle Ages. The path runs parallel to the riverbanks in completely natural surroundings. Most of the surrounding vegetation is made up of igneous pines and Cantabrian holm oaks, chestnut trees, hazel trees, and many, many more. There are also several eucalyptus plantations. Following the river after Aulesti will come to Gizaburuaga. Its layout is typical of so many Basque towns. Buildings are so scattered it's difficult to speak of a defined urban nucleus. This may be seen, however, around the parish church of Santa Catalina. We'll find one of the most important spots on our route within the town boundaries. Here's the Bengolea Ironworks Mill. At the time, it was the most important ironworks in Bizkaia and the main supplier of European iron goods in the first half of the 18th century. Bengolea transports us to a time of splendour when the high quality of the vein of iron and its commercial success as wrought iron consolidated the traditional Basque iron and steel industry as one of the main production sources. Thanks to the guidance of Pedro Bernardo Villarreal de Berriz, a wise Basque man of action, a great historical moment occurred, under whose influence we are still evolving today. He participated with his curious and enterprising spirit in the movement known as the Innovators, in times of pre-illustration. He was aware of the cultural reality of his time and, with his eager curiosity, he contributed a scientific reflection on his immediate surroundings. His work is his best legacy. Born in Mondragon, Villarreal de Berriz lived from 1669 to 1740. Amongst other titles, he was named Knight of the Order of St. James, granted by King Carlos II in 1690. As a nobleman, he administered local power in the first decades of the 18th century, since he was the registrar of those parishes that make up the municipalities in the region of Lea Ibarra today. During his terms of office, he showed special concern for the promotion of timber and improvements in both the environment and infrastructures. The land, ironworks and trade comprised his main occupational triad, particularly the first two. Villarreal de Berriz dedicated himself to all of these. His most striking facet, however, was his polyphacetic demeanour, as witnessed by his abutted dams and reservoirs that he built in several different spots, the architectural projects that he designed, the ships he built, and the compendium of his main intellectual interests that he wrote almost at the end of his life, entitled Hydraulic Machinery for Mills and Ironworks and the Government of Trees and Hills of Biscay. Above all else, he was a pragmatic man who applied empirical methods to those transformation processes he began, thus contributing as much as he could to the technological advances of his time. His marriage in 1694 to Mariana Rosa de Bengolea, born and resident in Lecatio, introduced him to a family with a long ironworking tradition. His new family had ironworks in Gizaburuaga, in which he immediately started to implement improvements. We can still see the remains of what used to be offices and buildings even today. At the start of each season, bunkers were full of the charcoal needed for the entire campaign. Though they may sound strange to our ears today, terms such as shearing, crushing, notching and water cannons were used frequently back then. When Pedro Bernardo married, the Bengolea Ironworks basically manufactured goods for Indian markets. Though large pieces were sold in Pasajes and San Sebastian, the factory mainly produced nails, plows and rakes, amongst other products demanded by the American market. In 1703, Villarreal de Berriz aspired to turn the family's ironworks into a royal ironworks, and he submitted a tender to the crown whereby Bengolea would dedicate itself to manufacturing artillery for the royal troops. In 1705, King Felipe V commissioned the manufacture of 6,000 quintals of ammunition per year over a period of 6 to 8 years. In all probability, the famous Flemish halberds appearing in Velázquez's great painting known popularly as the Lances were equipped with a sort of forged metal bayonet manufactured in Bengolea for the long lances the infantry used. Ash trees were planted close together so that they would grow tall and straight as they competed with each other for the available light. There's a small, very similar plantation very close to the ironworks. Undoubtedly, the hills and ironworks he inherited through his marriage were the two things Pedro Bernardo paid constant attention to throughout his entire life. They were economically prosperous but also socially difficult and tense times. The international wars and popular riots that were going on at the time gave no peace. Though the life of our protagonist suffered certain reverses that are too complicated to relate here, we could say that his life was largely beneficial. This does not mean to say, however, that his descendants didn't have to negotiate loans later on in order to keep their businesses and ironworks running. Pedro José Villarreal de Berriz y Bengolea, one of his 9 children, trained as a deputy in the arms race, married Maria Vicenta de Barrenechea y Castaños by proxy. In 1765, the couple had a daughter, Maria Josefa Francisca Pablo Vicenta, who, among the many other obligations of her legacy, also received the equivalent of a notary act dated in Lacatio in the year 1824, before notary Juan Antonio de Uribarri issued in favor of Florencio de Arizmendi for the sum of 100,000 reales de Bayonne. This sum was additionally guaranteed by mortgaged assets, such as the 2 Mendicoechea houses in the village of Morelega in Aulesti, the Amiax house in Amoroto, and the Erotabarri mill in Gizaburuaga. As documents preserved in the County Council archives of Biscay bear witness. This financial arrangement, however, should be considered as something completely normal back then between consolidated business families. Tower houses, symbols in themselves, are synonymous with Basque nobility, and this was also true for the Bengolea family. Bengo La Torre stands on the far river bank, and its main facade faces north towards the factories. It has a triple gabled roof. On the middle roof, the gable is crowned with the Bengolea family crest sculpted on a device or console. A series of gables spread out under the loft. Likewise, to the sides near the roof, we can see the battlements that give the tower its appearance. The rear facade has 3 lines of windows. Before being turned into a Baroque mansion, the tower had been a flag tower in the 16th century, and it's quite possible that the last Reformation work was carried out on the tower around the year 1721.